Monday reaction with Roni, and the Arsenal have won a football game at the GTech Community Stadium, third consecutive victory in a place where it's quite tough to go to. And obviously, this season, Arsenal have made it a bit difficult with a goalkeeping situation, but a very good win nonetheless. I thought we weren't great at all. The passing was quite slow for most of the game. We controlled the game, you can say. And obviously, we know that Brentford were playing with a very deep block and tried to look dangerous on the counter attack. I felt, other than our individual errors, especially from Ramsdale in the first half, we allowed them opportunities in the game. And luckily, they didn't score the big opportunity that they had, because that would have changed the game completely. And obviously, if Arsenal were in a situation where they were chasing the game against a Brentford team that defended well, then it would have been a difficult game for us, I feel, especially with the amount of players that we had on international duty. And the players that weren't on international duty, they had knocks and injuries over the last month or so. So a very, very big win for Arsenal. It wasn't fluid, and that was obviously most of our games this season. We are 13 games in, and we haven't been fluid at all this season. So I'm extremely ecstatic with the fact that we were able to get the job done. And obviously earlier, Manchester City and Liverpool also, the game couldn't really get going. The crowd wasn't really that energetic because of the early kickoff, and that kind of helped Arsenal, if you think about it. So a good draw for Arsenal in that game. Man City and Liverpool, obviously they are going to be in this title challenge, and hopefully we are able to continue in the title challenge as well. Something that's quite interesting, I know Arsenal led the league last season for quite some time, but after 13 games, Man City was still leading. It was only Arsenal only went top after the Wolves win before the World Cup, and that was match week 16. So we in match week 13, and Arsenal go top. Man City obviously second, and Liverpool third. Aston Villa beating Tottenham away, and Arsenal are playing Aston Villa soon. Man City is also playing Aston Villa soon. So Aston Villa, that's now in the top four. They had a very good win at Tottenham. Tottenham continues to struggle. So despite all the talk and the positivity around the new manager, Postecoglou, they've now lost their last three games, and that obviously coincided with suspensions and injuries, which most people that watches football knew that their starting team, when everybody's fit and they're together and playing to Postecoglou's plan, the moment they had to make some changes due to suspensions and injuries, they have now got 3 losses in a row, and they are playing Manchester City. I think they're playing next Sunday against Manchester City at the Etihad. But back to Arsenal, it's very nice to see Arsenal back at the top again after a heartbreaking season last season, where Arsenal led for so long. All the stats was pointing towards Arsenal, even though I personally and a lot of people obviously felt that Arsenal would eventually falter, and it was quite bad the way we did falter. But there was a different type of football that was played. This season, Arsenal are a combination of pragmatic and defending much better, not allowing a lot of chances, as the XG against tells you. However, our attack has now really not fired at all. I thought Odegaard and Saka weren't great at all. Obviously, there's a lot of complications when it comes to that, so you have to give it to Brentford. They did defend well. Mr. Frank, their manager, he's really a good manager, excellent tactician, and he was able to obviously shut down all the corridors where Arsenal wanted to work. So obviously most of our good play comes from, generally, when it's Ben White and Saka on the right, our right 8 being Odegaard, of course, the captain. He obviously will probably need again some time. So all the players that has come back, they haven't looked really that sharp. I think Martinelli, from all the players that's been injured with this short-term injuries, only Martinelli really looked on it when he actually came back from that injury. If we remember the Man City game, he was fantastic in the second half when he came on against Man City. Furthermore, all these players, the likes of Thomas Partey, that had a niggle before. Trossard didn't look good on his return from a niggle. Odegaard now the same. Saka also didn't look great after the niggle, and he's probably still carrying knocks. So that is also something that you have to take into account. And Jesus as well also didn't look at his best the very first game that he was back. And in this case, Jesus' first game after a couple of weeks was Brazil Argentina, and he didn't look too bad in that game. But again, he just came back from injury, played a full game, and then his hold-up play wasn't the absolute best. Wasn't awful, but it wasn't the best against Brentford. And obviously, quite a few players were below their best. So even though we had a lot of ball, we just couldn't penetrate, and the passing was quite slow. But again, I feel that if you go and look back at all the games and maybe even all the top teams that had loads of players at international duty, you will see their performance was quite slow the first game back after that international break. So Arsenal, we are absolutely well. I'm absolutely ecstatic that we got the win, and obviously there was obviously occasions where Eddie Nketiah came on in the second half, and once again we want to see a little bit more. And he obviously had one or two up. So even though his hold-up play was quite good, it was better than Jesus in this case. And obviously, there was improvement from Arsenal, and there was something different to the game when Nketiah and Havertz was on the field. Even though it wasn't great, it wasn't like it was extremely penetrative the way that we played. It's just there was something different to our attack, and that obviously led to the goal. And then if you just look at Saka once again, 15 goals and assists this season in all competitions, despite not really firing yet. So a lot of Arsenal players are not firing yet. But from a defensive standpoint, we are absolutely superb. Once again, a fantastic man of the match display from Declan Rice. What a player. So happy that we got this thing over the line. And it was huge for Arsenal's push for us to get him, because he's actually showing the consistency that we need. And that is what you get for that money. Obviously, in Havertz's case, 65 million. We haven't got that consistency, but this was a huge one for him, because he came on and got the winner for Arsenal, and that was the most important thing. So Arsenal's team, obviously Ramsdale in goal. I haven't even mentioned that so much. There's so many things that happened within this game where there wasn't much happening. It's actually quite strange. But Ramsdale obviously in goal had an awful first half. I don't know what was going on, but obviously this is now to do obviously with the Arsenal situation. With the David Raya thing, obviously David Raya couldn't play. It's his parent club. He's still on loan from Brentford, so he couldn't play in this game. And with that, there's going to be issues in the second half of the season if it is that Arsenal are in a situation where they're forced to or have decided to cash in on Ramsdale in January. Because Carl Hein is our third keeper. He is an Estonian international, but he is not a very good goalkeeper. He is an experienced young international goalkeeper, but he obviously plays for Estonia, one of the weaker international teams in world football. And when he has come on, he hasn't looked that great. When he has played for Arsenal, I think he's probably only played once for Arsenal. He's been on the bench, obviously, loads of times when either Raya or Ramsdale wasn't involved in the squad. So we've got a problem. We're going to need to get an experienced second keeper in if Ramsdale doesn't make it. And then you are back at that situation when Raya doesn't play. How good is the second keeper? So goalkeeper situations is extremely difficult. However, Ramsdale display in the first half wasn't great, but everything that he was so poor at in the second half, he was much better at. Obviously playing out from the back. There was instances, I think I read somewhere that Arteta was shouting at him not to play out from the back. And then obviously one or two mistakes still took place after that. So, yeah, obviously they are coached a certain way to play a certain way for Arsenal to start play out from the back. But it's consistently happening, these little errors that comes in. And more often than not, we are actually not punished, which is strange. And despite the fact that we are solid, as we've got a solid DM, and we've got solid two centre backs and good. Well, most of the time the right back defends well. So Ben White most of the time defends well. It's more Zinchenko. There's lots of times where the right winger has a little bit of space there because of the way that Zinchenko plays. And Tomiyasu defended well most of the time again in this game as well. So yeah, if we need to cut out the errors, obviously it hasn't led to the goal in this game because somehow Brentford missed that opportunity, and I'm aware of the fact that they could have scored and it would have been a difficult game because of what I mentioned at the beginning, where the international break obviously took its toll. So the combination of the injuries that Arsenal have had and the players that went on international duty. So that's obviously a good thing on the one hand. You've got more players playing for their national teams. However, they are obviously going to come back a little bit tired with all the travelling. and the training and all those type of things. But it's the same for other top teams as well. Man City, Liverpool had loads of players out, quite a few South American players like Arsenal. So yeah, it sounds like an excuse, but it's just a proper reason as to why the football. And it's not just Arsenal. If you go and look back at the Liverpool City game, go and look back at Liverpool and City's performances, especially in the first half of games directly after the international break. Obviously, Arsenal had, I think they had the Chelsea game and the Everton game after international breaks. So if you just think about it, we beat Everton 1-0. We controlled the game mostly there. We didn't allow much chances. And then obviously we were quite poor for 65 to 70 minutes against Chelsea. So the proof is there that after international breaks, it's really, really difficult to have a very good performance. But 1-0 win for Arsenal. They go top. And then obviously I went on this huge long talk without now going further into our individual players. So let me start from over the starting lineup. So Ramsdale in goal, had a poor first half. There was an occasion where he tried to bowl the ball out like a cricketer and he just totally messed that up as well. So a couple of nervy moments. A lot of people saying that that is his last Arsenal game. He might get PSV away in the Champions League, and I'm assuming there's quite a lot of games happening now until January. But again, like I said earlier, and I know I went into a tangent, it's going to be difficult for Arsenal to sell him in January because of the situation that we're in, and we're just going to find it difficult to get a decent second keeper, and we're going to find it difficult to be in a situation where we have to rely on Karl Hein, and Raya has to play every single game without any injuries, no, or loss of form. Obviously, Arsenal's fullback situation, Ben White was on the bench, so that means he is closer and closer to getting back into it after a bit of a niggle. Tomiyasu was obviously right back, Zinchenko left back, centre back still the same, Gabriel left centre back, Saliba right centre back. I thought Gabriel was immense, and Saliba, there wasn't a lot that happened from an attacking standpoint from Brentford in order for us to say Saliba had a great game or didn't have he just had a good game, let's call it that. And then Arsenal playing with Declan Rice in the 6, and once again a superb performance from him. Doesn't matter if it's the 6 or the 8. And then we had Trossard at the left 8 position. So obviously Arsenal plays with a left 8 and a right 8. Left 8 being Trossard in this case, and Odegaard. It didn't really work, in my opinion. Once again, Arsenal had a lot of the ball, weren't penetrative, and Brentford defended really well for 95% of the game. In fact, maybe 100% of the game. It's just we created a good chance to score the goal, and that's what we need in tight games, that one opportunity that we put away. Our front three was Jesus, Saka, Martinelli. That is obviously our main front three, and I didn't think they were that great. Combination of Jesus also had a very good opportunity for the offside goal. He should have scored that himself. So once again, he's profligate in front of goal. He's not really that goal scorer. He has a fantastic all-round game, fantastic pressing striker, but just again, he's just not that clinical, unfortunately, and we don't really have that, and we are still top. So yeah, I was disappointed with the front three. Obviously, they all played international football. Saka less so. Jesus just coming back from an injury, but a full 90 minutes in a very difficult Brazil-Argentina game. And Martinelli basically played most of the two Brazil games, where he was actually the best player over the 180 minutes for Brazil in their two games. I think they lost both. Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see what happens in the next coming games. Our next three games are all winnable, 2 at home and 1 away. We play Lens in the Champions League, so obviously I think we probably need a draw to be guaranteed to go through and possibly even to win the group. Just a draw. I'm confident that Arsenal will win. Hopefully we can make some changes. Hopefully we can get Vieira in, because remember, he's suspended for 3 games. So his first suspended game was the game against Brentford, then Wolves at home, and then he will have a Luton away where he can't be involved in the squad due to the 3-match suspension for the red card against Burnley. So hopefully Vieira gets to play, and then probably a Jesus from the bench, just due to the fact that he's just come back and played quite a bit for someone that's just come back. So so Lens on Wednesday evening. If Arsenal win, they're obviously guaranteed to go through, guaranteed to go top. And then on either Saturday or Sunday, we are playing Wolves. I'm assuming that's Sunday due to the fact that we are playing Wednesday. I'm not 100% certain on that one. And then we've got Luton. I think we're playing them the following Tuesday. So three winnable games coming up, and then it's very, very difficult games where it's not. I think I know it's Villa away, Brighton at home, and Liverpool away. So obviously we lost to Brighton at home last season at the back end where we were at absolutely nothing more to give. We in a very, very difficult game beat Aston Villa 4-2, and then we obviously drew with Liverpool away, and we generally struggled there. So three very difficult games that's possible to get nothing out of, despite our form, despite the fact that we topped, despite the fact that we're defending better. Those are three really difficult games. If the injury situation doesn't improve, and if players that's going to be coming in are not going to take control, especially in the left 8 position. It's now Trossard, Vieira, Havertz. The three of them needs to start taking a claim for that left 8 position. And hopefully Odegaard's form improves. Hopefully Saka improves. Martinelli is in good form. Obviously, our front three struggled in general against Brentford, but they are generally in good form. So we'll see how it goes. So Lens next, Champions League on Wednesday. Let's hope Arsenal get the job done. I've rattled now for about 16 minutes, but a very important win for Arsenal. We do go top of the league. Come on, you Gunners. Come on.
Cadence.